The fixed temperament. This is determined by if you have the majority of planets in fixed signs. The fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. These signs are mentioned in the scriptures, in the Bible, as I think they're described as these four um, angelic beings that are at the four corners of the earth. I think I think that's the context in which they're brought up. I actually have to brush up on that, but it's interesting that, the man, the bull, the eagle, which relates to Scorpio, and the lion are mentioned in the Bible. So these are the signs of power because it's where energy gets localized and concentrated. So these signs are very important. They're important in astrology, they're important to the psyche, they're important to the whole world. So we're going to explore the temperament of the fixed signs as it's outlined in this book here, The Art of Synthesis by Alan Leo, one of my favorite astrologers and one of my favorite books. He says the fixed temperament arises from the majority of planets being placed in the fixed signs. This is in principle the opposite of the active temperament, the cardinal signs, and is characterized by firmness, inertia, and changelessness. The cardinal signs are also known as movable because the cardinal energy is energy which moves. It's quick to move, quick to change. It's restless, not so much in the nervous sense of the mutable signs, but more in the sense of let's get things moving towards a goal or moving in a definite direction. Whereas mutable energy it just wants to move in general. So in any nativity, which means birth chart, it'll incline the native to become more or less set, to run in a groove. And if the horoscope does not show any modifying flexibility, to be over determined and somewhat dogmatic. It denotes grit and thoroughness, and when energized, gives the power to be firm, rigid, and unyielding in either good or evil according to the moral growth. The tendency of these signs is to hold together, to organize, to build up and accumulate, and make steady rather than to scatter, disrupt, or change as do the cardinal signs. But like the latter, they may result in either good or bad traits. Thus, there may be manifested either patience or indolence, firmness or obstinacy, strength of will or stubbornness, conservation or bigotry, concentration or sluggishness. So you see how good this could go both ways. And I think this is really interesting. With the fixed signs, we could either have intense patience or the opposite, bigotry, right? The inability to be patient because the energy is resolute, it's fixed upon what it believes. And so it may have little to or no patience for a specific something in life. So yeah, the extremes are really extreme when it comes to the fixed temperament. In the sphere of action, this temperament means work steadily and perseveringly performed. In the department of the intellect, it gives a profound and comprehensive mind, suitable for dealing with serious subjects, of steadfast views, and often a good memory, especially when there's planets in Aquarius, the fixed air sign. With desires and feelings, it has very close affinity both for good and evil, for according to moral growth, so may its influence vary from passions and emotions of every description, almost good or bad, up to supreme strength of will, self-control, and mastery both of self and others. There may be either dignity or pride and a love of power apart from ambition. Although naturally slow to move, people with this temperament often rush out into action in order to obtain some desired end or object. And under sufficient stimulus, they may act with suddenness or violence, much as does the planet Uranus. But in a good horoscope, there'll be sincerity, thoroughness, reliability, and conscientiousness. So the fixed signs, they really tend to be spurred into action and to move towards something when it's an object of intense desire. The fixed signs have to do with this energy, which is concentrated to a core, to a center. And so, what better energy to accomplish that than the energy of desire, where everything coalesces towards the center? all your relationships, your interactions, the activities you do, even the kind of food you eat and when you eat it. All these things in life be could have an end, right, towards a specific goal, so that all these things are being performed with that end in mind, which is this fixed energy. It brings all the activities of life down into this center, this fixed core, right? So the fixed signs uh, will really be motivated and are motivated typically towards a specific end or towards the obtaining of power. And we've seen that, especially in the lives of different tyrants that have fixed placements in their charts very pronounced. Um, you know, Tyrants are really the most obvious form of this because they are willing to do whatever it takes, and they will sacrifice entire populations just to get what they want or to achieve the kinds of power that they desire. So this energy is not something to play around with, and it's something we really want to understand too, especially here in this human drama on Earth, because the fixed signs provide an energy that can move mountains and that can mobilize millions of people to do their bidding. Fixed energy is some of the most powerful energy in the world because energy becomes intensified to such an immense degree when we just simply have focus or concentration, when we have organization and cohesion of our will towards a specific desired end goal. So even if you don't have any planets in your fixed sign in any fixed signs, you still have the fixed sign somewhere in your chart. They fall under some house. And so you want to understand where these four powerful signs are and start to understand how to capitalize on this energy of concentration to the best of your ability. This is why meditation is so powerful, because it's just the simplest practice to allow you to tap into unbroken concentration, which really comes through stillness. Remember, in a tornado, in the center, it's serene and it's still, but in the circumference is where everything's getting whirled around with such intensity. But at the center is stillness. And when you find stillness at your own center, you have greater capacity. I don't care what sign you are. If you're a human being with a heart and soul and a mind, if you will find your center, you're going to find stillness there. And that stillness is going to provide the kind of power that you need to move the way you want to move in the world and to get what you want. Fixed signs have some affinity with the artisan or trading caste, but in a higher application, they may signify the king or anyone who has authority over others. If considered separately, Taurus will add to the obstinacy and incline to jealousy and stiff-neckedness, sometimes to pride. Taurus rules the throat, so we should note that when he refers to Taurus as stiff-necked. Um, Being stiff-necked is an interesting metaphor there. Really interesting, because Taurus being fixed Earth, it's some of the most stubborn energy in the zodiac. You could say Scorpio is a competitor to that, being fixed water. So once our emotions are dead set on something, it's really hard to move us off of it. But really, once something is an intuitive sense in the body or lodged within our hearts as a definite desire, it's really hard to take us off of that. So Taurus, most of all will definitely incline towards this stiff-necked sort of attitude. Leo, the fixed fire sign, gives love of power, great persistence, determination, self-reliance, ardent feelings, but sometimes austerity. So Leo being fixed fire is this energy that can provide the drive to really accomplish anything, because it's fire that knows how to burn slow and steady. And anything that is steady and burns slow, uh, you know, can eventually it can do anything. It's like a laser, or the sun being focused through a magnifying glass. If it stays on a specific point for long enough, then that thing's going to catch fire. Scorpio increases positiveness, pride, extravagance, love of dominating others with resentment or vindictiveness in an unfavorable horoscope. Love of dominating others. That's an interesting trait to give to Scorpio there. Scorpio being the sign of sex. Sex is the, the play of intimacy is an act in which it's described as we tame each other, you know? Um, and there's this play of dominance and submission that occurs through that act. And the partners can switch, you know, um, and often do, even in a traditional hetero sort of expression of that, because that's how intimacy works. One person lets go and gives over control, and the other takes it. And then, and so it's very interesting how that can play out through this sign, which is the sign that rules the genitals in the body. It rules over that part of the body. And so whether it's power over others politically, whether it's this thirst for influence and charisma, that definitely just comes through this fixed water sign known as Scorpio. Aquarius, although refining the temperament, sometimes tends to sloth and indolence, and the mind is apt to get too fixed, to run too much in a groove. The native may be very agreeable and companionable, as may any of the fixed signs if benefics are prominent, benefics being Jupiter and Venus, the benefic planets, the lucky and harmonious good planets. But he has very decided opinions of his own and a quiet way of carrying out his own plans, undeterred by opposition or unpopularity. Aquarius being opposite Leo, this fixed air sign, is the energy where we have such a resolute mind that we don't care what other people think or what they're gonna, what their opinions are. It can be the most opinionated energy in the zodiac, where the mind is so fixed about how it thinks that it's highly individualistic. And yet Aquarius does rule, groups, networks, the society at large, humanitarian enterprises, because even though it's highly individualistic, being a fixed sign, air is always shared. We share the air. There's no way to hog the air in the room, even though that is, I think, an expression, which is interesting. Um, but in reality, there's enough air to go around, and there always will be. And so air is the element that relates to relationship. And Aquarius, given this highly individual nature being a fixed sign, does still it has this desire or this understanding that it's in a relationship with a community. So Gemini is learning to relate and understand with different ideas in the mind, and also understanding, just the relationship between self and other as brother and sister, or as Gemini rules siblings, neighbors, local relationships. Libra is more about one-on-one. It's about cooperation, whether that's a business partnership or an intimate relationship, a marriage. And then Aquarius is the relationship amongst organizations, companies with other companies, or all the individuals within a company. And so, but it is worth knowing that as it shows up in the individual realm, Aquarius is that energy that provides this mental fixation, which can be so without concern for how other people think. Um, and it can be a very stubborn-headed energy. It can be as hard to move as Taurus, that fixed earth, just like it's hard to move or sway a tornado. You can't change what a tornado is doing. um, there's just nothing you can do about that. And Aquarius has this similar sort of mind. Um, being a Leo, one of my good friends growing up was an Aquarius, and I noticed there was no changing his mind at all. However, as a Leo, if I could speak to his heart by showing my own heart, sometimes I did notice changes in his attitude and in his worldview. And he's told me that I was one of the most influential people in his life. And I didn't know that until he told me that. But looking back on it, it makes sense that really the only energy that can contend with the stubborn headedness of an Aquarius, which is just that their breadth of vision is so wide that they might feel that they see it all, or they might just be so detached in a way that it's not really possible for them to make contact with any of your ideas in a way where they're going to change. But the heart has reasons which reason knows not of. And sometimes when you speak from the heart, you can even change the mind of an Aquarius. That's how powerful the heart is. But anytime I did that for my friend, it was just because I was sharing my perspective. And it was not coming from this place of, hey, let me change your mind. It was just coming from this place of, this is how I see things in the universe. This is how I've experienced it. And then sharing it in a most personal way seemed to inspire that Aquarian temperament. So I think that's quite interesting.